Welcome back to another video. It is your girl KJ Radiant here. So happy to see you. If this is the first time you're seeing my face, my name is KJ Radiant. Here we are mental health, lifestyle, self-healing, etc. And today's video is going to be kind of talking about the root of where I started with my spiritual journey and how I kind of got to this KJ butterfly, all about the mental health, all about the self-healing. Like, where did this all start? That's what today's video is going to be about. And if that's something that you're interested in watching, I hope you stick around and enjoy. So with that being said, go on and grab you a drink today of choice. I have my water with my Starburst flavoring and that's what we're going to be sipping on today while we dive into my spiritual journey. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so I want to start this video off by saying that I deeply just truly wanted to manifest the life of my dreams, and not just the life of my dreams. Ultimately, I was so fed up with myself and where I was in my life that I knew the only way that I could change was if I started making changes in my life. So that's kind of what started my spirituality journey. Like, it never was meant to be spiritual. I never intended it to be like religious or spiritual or anything like that. It just happened that way. And so, like, I guess I should start with the first initial part of it. So for as long as I can remember, I've always just been, I've talked about this in a lot of my videos, I've always been very solo dolo, but the thing about me is that I've always kept journals. This is no different. This is one of my journals. I have a bunch of other journals, and I have a lot of other stuff from my house that I need to get. But essentially throughout all of my life, I have ultimately been, I have always had this like notion that I'm going to die very soon and I need something to outlive me, which sounds really like remorse, but I've kind of talked about like growing up in my household. Like, it was very, like, I had a really tough childhood. Let's just keep it like that. Growing up in my household, I was, being very suicidal and having multiple suicide attempts. It just, there was such a like overlooking concept in my life at a young age that I was going to die very soon, and I always wanted to be remembered. So I always wanted to leave like a part of me behind. And I'm saying this to say that I've always just been preserving like parts of myself, parts of my life, the goods, the bads, and like the highs and the lows in journals or like through like whatever, just so that I can keep track of it, so that if something were to happen to me, somebody would be able to know my story and know like my journey and my legacy or whatever. But anyway, over time, it wasn't like enough, because I was still feeling very unsatisfied with who I was. And on my third suicide attempt, that's really when I started kind of like getting a look around at my life, because at this point I was in college and I was just like, I can't keep going on like this. Like, there needs to be a change, and I know I'm greater, I'm capable of greater things. I just need to tap into that. And at first I really did not know how, and there was definitely like a lot of trial and error, but throughout the process, I just kept my eyes on having something to preserve, until preserving my life turned into like having a life to preserve. Does that make sense? It seemed like I was trying to preserve. It seemed like growing up, I was always trying to preserve what little life I had. And then by the time I got to college, I was like, I'm trying to preserve what little broken, shattered dreams of this, when I should be building something else. And so preservation of life turned into like trying to expand my life. And that's really when my spiritual journey like started picking up for me. And so that was when 2019 happened, and that's when I first moved out by myself. And that's when I was still living in Houston. And that's like, I don't know if y'all remember some of the videos, but that's like when I was really like alone, but I was dealing with like, that's when I was confronted with all of my childhood traumas, all of my issues all at once, without family, without friends, alone. Like, if you've never truly been alone, if you've never truly like had nobody, okay? And at that point, like, there were days where I was just like, at the height of my sickness, I've talked about this a couple times, where I was just stuck on the bathroom floors at times, unable to get up, like just sick and destroying my body with my eating disorder, and just my mental health just ravaging. And then even when I was working, I was overworking myself. I was basically killing myself. even though I was surviving. And at that point, I was just so unhappy. And so I wrote a letter to myself. And I wrote that letter on October 25th of 2019, that 4 years from that day. Like, I would not be this hurt. I would not be this sick. I would not be this filled with self-loathing for myself, because if you really think about it, that's where a lot of that comes from. Yes, there are a lot of outside forces. Yes, it is a lot of mental factors, but a lot of that comes from unhappiness with self and disconnect from divine self. So for me, I was truly riddled with self-loathing. I was riddled with hatred for myself and for my life and for my surroundings. I hated all of me. And so it showed. Like, I was literally poisoning my body inside out and killing myself, working myself, going to the gym too many times, like killing my body literally. And it got to the point that once I moved back down here, it was affecting other people, because I moved in with my family again, and it was like they were kind of getting affected by it, and I was really just plummeting. I would say that was really my rock bottom. I would say that was my rock bottom, because there was points when I was singing like choir songs on the floor in tears, like at the top of my lungs in the house with other people. Like, there was a point where I was really just like, that was rock bottom for me, but that was also the height, like the kind of a pivot for me, because at that point I was like, okay, this is not good. I don't know what's going on with my life. Keep in mind, I'm still in school, but I've transferred school, so I'm about to start a new college, even though I've already realized at this point I did not want to be in college. Freshman year, by halfway through second semester. So at this point, like, by freshman year, halfway through the semester, I already knew I was done with school. So I was already like trying to find other routes. I was already like done with school by literally my freshman year. But I thought at that time it was just because, you know, the circumstances with my roommates. If you haven't seen my college video, like, I already talked about it. I had to, like, my freshman year was traumatic. On top of coming from a traumatic household, then going into traumatic environment with my roommates, and then going into like a freezer. It would literally be like a cryotherapy, like freezing in time with like all of that trauma, and just like, I'm literally like falling apart. So I had to make a plan to get my life together, move back to my house, fell apart around other people. That's when I started, like, that's when they realized that my family realized, like, that I was also getting sick. No, not that I was getting sick, that I was sick. At that point, I had lost a lot of weight. I promise I have been eating. Even though you see my collarbones, I promise I have been eating. But at this time, I had lost a lot of weight. I was like, I couldn't do a lot of stuff. My heart was beating a lot. Like, that's when my Graves' disease really started picking up. And I've talked about this on this channel a lot. This journey has been, like, that's the greatest thing about my channel, is that you've been able to see this transformation. You've been able to see this growth, like getting diagnosed with Graves' disease, then like that first time being hospitalized. So for the most part, up until this entire part of my life, it's always been physical for me. I have always been stuck in this very physical struggle. And getting stuck with Graves' disease really kind of enforced that in my life, that I was not just struggling regularly. I was struggling physically, which is why I was hating my body, which is why I spent so much time loathing myself, which is why I spent so much time depressed, which is why I spent so much time hating life, which is why I spent so much time worried about the preservation of life rather than the conservation and like enthusiasm of life. And then getting diagnosed with Graves' disease and then being hospitalized, it really put that into effect for me, because I was really at rock bottom again, because at this point I'm like, I have moved down here, I am sick, and I am not willing to let this be rock bottom for me anymore. That's when I started like really getting into like, I'm still going to keep going, like this is not going to stop me. So then that's when things kind of started picking up for me, because that's when I got into my first fashion show with my modeling for my best friend Dally, which was a dream come true, because I've always just wanted to model. It's just been something that's just been a dream of mine since before I can remember. I've been behind the camera since I was a baby. Literally the moment I turned 16 up until now, I've been behind the camera. I started my YouTube channel when I was 18. I am meant to be behind this camera. I love it. I desire it. It's just meant for me. But that being said, I stayed from behind it for such a long time because I hated myself and I thought everybody else would hate me as well. And there was so much self-loathing in that. So then being accepted to model at fashion show and having that dream come true where I was like, I've been selected, I've been chosen, I've been selected despite all odds, despite being sick, despite being at the time of the fashion show. My eyes were really swollen at this point. They were running like running nonstop. Like, it was insane. Like, I had to carry tissues with me all the time because my eyes were nonstop running, swollen, red. And for me to still have gotten selected, I was like, I have done it. I have unlocked manifestation. So that same year, within that same couple month time span, is when I applied to run for Miss USA. And that's when life really, like, it spiraled for me. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. So I, at this point, being selected to run for the fashion show and walking in the fashion show, I was like, that's a dream come true. So what other dream can I accomplish? And growing up, I love toddlers and tiaras. I love the pageantry. I love princesses. The concept of Miss USA has always just been something that is just, I can't tell you how passionate I am about it. I don't even like discussing it with other people because I can't put it into words how deeply in love I am with it. Just because I know there's a lot of hate about the pageantry and, you know, the feminism movement, and I am a strong feminist, but I'm also a princess. Anyway, that being said, I was like, okay, the next dream, I want to run for Miss USA. So I applied and I got selected. Yes, I got selected. Obviously, I didn't get selected while cross-eyed, but I did get selected. And at that moment in life, that was like the happiest point in my life, but also like the most depressing point. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because at that point in time, that was like national history, where the first Miss USA, Miss World, and I think Miss the top 3 ranking of Miss USA, Miss World, and I know there's another one. They were all black women. So had I ran that next consecutive year, the crown would have went down to a black woman. So it would have been 4 black women in a row, which would have been national history 2 years in a row. But now, as some of you may or may not know, the Miss USA is now passed away due to suicide, which again, why I talk so much about mental health on this channel, why I talk so much about healing, because she is really a big inspiration of why I applied. Just the concept of her pageant, her run in the pageant was beautiful, and the concept of her passing down the tiara to me would have been unbelievably real. And for her to be gone now, it just goes to show you how transformative life can really be and how quickly life can just fall in the blink of an eye. If I felt like my life was falling apart in these past 2 years, I know for her it's been even worse because she's gone now. I'm glad she's at peace now, finally. But at this point, I applied for this pageant and I'm thinking, yes, I'm going to get the crown. I'm going to get the crown every day I'm going to work. This is really when I first started my affirmations and like verbally speaking my manifestations out loud, because at that point I had already done a vision board. Even though by my freshman year of college, yes, my 3rd suicide attempt, I did rip up my vision board, my 2019 vision board. I ripped it up off my wall, threw it away, I threw up all my stuff. So I don't have that one anymore, but I had always been, that was my first time like switching from a visual manifesting into like verbal manifesting. So every day that I was going to work, I was like, I'm going to get the crown. I'm going to be the next Miss USA. I'm going to get the crown. I'm going to be the next Miss USA. I'm worthy. I'm going to make more money today than I ever have. And like every day I was just going to work, like saying like affirmations to myself. And at first, obviously, yes, it was a little awkward, but over time, I really got used to it. And I was going to work like bumping, like, yes. And there were times where definitely I was more into praying in the beginning. And I should definitely get back into that. But at that time, every morning before I would go to work, I would just cut the radio down for a little bit and just pray and just let somebody know that I'm here and that I'm, working, and please pray over my family and please pray over my friends. And if they were going through stuff, I was praying for them on my way to work. And now it's like, you fast forward a little bit more, and then I wasn't even able to go to work anymore because eventually I was still getting sicker. And then I applied for another job, and eventually I'm working, and this is when my health is now at physical decline. which is also the real reason why I was not able to stay in the pageant. My health was ultimately too far gone for me to be able to even look like my pictures that I had submitted. My eyes were popping out of my head too far. They were just a disaster. Physically, I would not have been able to compete in the pageant. So I did have to withdraw. Definitely one of the... Definitely one of the saddest moments for sure. In all seriousness, I really hope that one day I can return to looking normal so that I can run. I just feel like it would be so empowering to know that a woman in a crown can lead the world, and she could do it coming from a place of dorky, quirky, wacky, weirdo origin. And I feel like, who better than me? So anyway, I had to withdraw from the pageant because I was too sick. And I'm working, and that's when I had to get hospitalized. You've seen my whole journey. So I got hospitalized, and then once I got out of the hospital, that's really when my spiritual journey picked up. So at this point, my spiritual journey did not pick up until my physical, until I was literally dragged to physical death. Okay, I think I literally had to die physically for me to be able to be like, okay, I need to start my spiritual journey at this point, no more. So after I got out of the hospital, I really started focusing on like my health aspect, like what I ate, as well as like I did my social detox, because I was going through a lot of stuff, but also because I felt so ugly, couldn't be behind camera, and I like didn't have really that many friends. But also at that time I was just like, nobody will accept me like this, nobody, you know, I have nobody, I need to cut off everybody, I need to go hermit mode. All my tarot readings, I was getting the Tower in reverse, like I was crumbling, y'all. I had to cut everybody off and go ghost. And that's when my spiritual journey, that's when everything started like clicking into place for me, because at that point, once I cut everybody off and once I went ghost, I was able to really focus on myself and start relearning who I was, and like not just who I was and who I was to other people, but who I was authentically, what I actually liked, why I liked those things. I mean, and doing things that were self-care that aren't traditional, like binge watching all of Harry Potter movies because I've always wanted to watch all of them in one consecutive sitting, and then doing that while feeding myself all my favorite foods, wrapped in all of my favorite blankets, and like caring for myself. Or doing days of complete silence and nothing but shadow work, getting to the root of like, where did this thought come from? Where did this negative assumption of myself start from? Where did all of this unhealthy beliefs and self-talk come from? Like, getting to the root of that. Like, I did shadow work, and I just spent months in isolation and just literally really focusing on myself. And I will say a book that really got me like kind of focused on like focusing on myself to manifest the things I want would be the Jen Sincero You're a Badass book. I actually gave the copy of that to my mother. I really need that book back. But I have a copy of that book, and it's one of my favorite books because it really started my spiritual journey. Because at that point, it made me realize that people are not always going to believe you, and people are not going to be on the same frequency with you when you start trying to align to something different. And number two, you're capable of so much more than you know, no matter your circumstances, and to just continue to persevere and be consistent. And that's kind of all that I've been applying and what's been helping me continue moving forward. Because the moment I came back from my social detox, I came back with so much more love and so much more understanding of myself and who I was. And I was able to connect better with my divine feminine in this time, which is one of my vision boards, which I want to go on and show you guys really quickly. I don't want this video to be too super long. Obviously, I can do another video about this. There's so much more. It's going to be like more videos about this because there are a lot I can talk about. But I want to show you just kind of like a glimpse of how in depth my vision boards have gone, and kind of show you like how my mindset has been able to change as far as my spiritual journey. Okay, so as you can see with this one, it is very like, it's very small pictures. Most of it is like a lot of quotes and like little words and stuff like that. And that's just because at this point, this is 2020, my mental health. Remember, like I said, 2020, that's when I was like sick. That's when I was getting sick with Graves' disease, but still trying to like encourage myself. So that vision board is mostly like words of encouragement. Then the next year came along and I was like, I'm hungry. I have been off of social media for long enough. So then I came back with this one, The Year of Me. And this is the one where I was like, by this point, this was last year, this is when I did my social media detox, and I'm only focusing on myself. I'm only working on me. I'm by myself. And I really focused this year on myself. I learned yoga. I started my podcast. I did a spiritual healing trip to the canyons, not the Grand Canyons, but the canyons in Dallas, Texas. I did road trips. I did more stuff for my content than ever before. I really focused only on me, and I began to blossom into like a more spiritual version of myself. And now this year, I'm really just focusing solely on spirituality. I am done with the physical realm. I feel like last year was kind of like me still tethered to the physical a little bit, but still like now really kind of opening my mind as far as the spirituality. And this year, like, I'm only spirituality. I don't want no parts of the physical realm anymore whatsoever. Like, I am done. My boyfriend is very much spiritual. He's very, 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 very spiritual. And anytime I'm with him, he's going to make sure that I am reminded that this is all spiritual and to not get so tied down with the mental, because it's bad for your mental health. Quite frankly, you have to realize that we are all just on a floating rock in space. Like, just that concept alone, like, you are existing against all odds already. And for them, and when I say them, I mean everybody. I mean the world, I mean the government, I mean the system, I mean your parents, I mean your friends, I mean yourself, even your negative thoughts. All of it is built to kind of put you in a situation where you have to really detach a little bit and realize that I'm just here for the human experience, and that is all that I'm here for. All of this stuff is just an experience for me to gain some form of knowledge, some form of lesson, some form of healing, some form of blessing, some form of some form of something. Like, it's just to experience. That's all that it is. And to let things like really bog you down is no longer healthy for me, and I don't want it to be healthy for you either. You gotta let that stuff go, girl. And I think being cross-eyed was really what made that like kick in for me, because it really forced me to have to focus on internal loving first, because I was so disgusted, and still quite frankly very disgusted with the outside. So even though in the beginning I hated inside and outside, I had to learn inside. I had to love inside, fall in love inside. I'm so deeply passionate about who I am as an individual and who I am as a content creator, who I am as an influencer, that it's like, I'm a cool person. I'm a weird person, a dorky person, socially awkward, but I'm still pretty darn cool. I'll never be a baddie, but I'm pretty darn cool either way. But that realization only came this year because I solely focused on shadow work, solely focused on healing, solely focused on inner child healing. Because for me, I realized I'm deeply connected to my inner child, because I was not able to connect with her at all as a kid. I was the oldest. I was getting beat for my siblings. Like, I had to grow up very, very quickly, and I had to be an adult very, very quickly for other people very, very quickly. I was handling responsibilities for other children very, very quickly that I did not get to be a child. So for me, connecting with my inner child has been so healing. It's been so freeing. It's been so gratifying, just being able to be free and childlike. And like, I am able to be confident in that, which is a little weird. Even now, I sometimes ask my boyfriend, like, you're not weirded out by this? We've been watching this movie and you haven't said anything. He's like, no, I love this. I love that you love this. I love that this is authentically you, because this is authentically me. And being authentic, you'll be able to share that with other people in your life without feeling bad about it. Whereas there are so many times where growing up, I would want to share stuff about me that got, trashed or like diminished. Like, I love Broadway, that gets smashed. I love musicals, that gets smashed. Like, stuff like that. Like, there would be so many times you bring your light and you bring your joy and you bring something that you're passionate about to other people, and it can get smashed, which is why we grow up kind of hating parts of ourselves and learning to hide parts of ourselves and tweak parts of ourselves and customize what parts we show to other people, when ultimately all parts of ourselves are valuable. And that's really what I had to learn. I lost my vision, but my third eye opened, literally, because I learned to love myself so internally and truly and deeply, whereas now I'm really working on the physical, and it's not easy, guys. I would really could use some tips, truly, because I'm really struggling with the physicality still. It's just something that I just don't care for, but I know it's still a journey, and that is life. And I hope this kind of helps somebody, not in necessarily a way of like I hope it helps you, but like I hope just kind of sharing my journey is just kind of showing that life is going to take you in so many different twists and turns to teach you different lessons. It took losing my eyes and, you know, having to hate myself physically to also be able to be like, wow, I love myself internally. While my journey did start solely on the physical, I've been really blessed and grateful to be able to enjoy this journey spiritually, because being able to see my growth and like looking back through the pages of my journal where I've manifested so many things that I wanted, it's just like, even to this part, like this is a drawing of my apartment, and this is probably in 2019. Oh no, this is in 2020. So this is like literally, okay, so this is in January of 2020. I drew this picture of what I wanted my apartment to be, and now there it is. It's literally like right there. And now I'm leaving this home that I've built, this space that I've built, this environment that I've built up with all of these manifestations that I've had. And I cannot tell you where life is taking me next, because honestly, I'm just as long for the ride as you are. These past couple weeks, I've been really in a surrendering mindset, which is very different for me. If you know anything about Capricorns, that's just not our vibe. We like to be prepared. We like a plan. We like structure. My little touch of Asperger's, I need to know what's going on at all times. But I spiritually the other day had to have a death, or not really a death, but I definitely put my inner child to bed for a little while. So if you see me a little bit more feminine, if you see me a little bit more grown, a little bit more, you know what I'm saying, it's because I've recently just decided to really just truly tap into my divine feminine and just continue to just connect with source and source energy, in hopes that that'll kind of help me get back on track with a lot of my life right now. Ultimately, I just want to get back to a functioning mindset. I'm at a functioning mindset, but I want to get to a productivity mindset where my spirituality mindset is now matching. And now that I've aligned to my highest self mentally, spiritually, mentally, I want to now align physically. Does that make sense? But I can only align physically if I only absorb spiritually, is what I'm hoping. I don't know if that's actually going to work. We're gonna see. That's why you gotta follow. That's why you gotta hit that subscribe button and join the KJ Butterflies as we continue on this journey together, because it is a whirlwind. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm happy that I'm doing it with you guys. As always, I hope I see you guys in the next video. Until the next time, as always, bye.